Young women are starting to leave young men behind. For decades, women and girls have been streaking ahead of young men and boys in education, with far more women than men going to college or university in developed countries. But a new phenomenon is that in a growing number of countries, young women are now also more likely to be in work than young men. Most striking of all, in the UK, young women now earn more than young men too. To put it another way, there's now a growing list of countries where the answers to who is doing most of the legwork raising kids, who is focused on getting a good education, and who is out working to bring home a good income are all women.
I don't want to dig on this video. I think this video is important, and that's not the reason that I wanted to talk about it. But for years now, I've been hearing this same narrative, this same argument about the pandemic of loneliness among men, especially young men, and things like this about how women are succeeding in society and men are failing. And I want to talk about it because the way it's worded, like the title of this video, the very first line of this video, young women are leaving young men behind. It's framed in almost every argument as though women advancing and having more of an equal role and equal rights in society is the cause. And it kind of makes it seem like it's women's responsibility to fix. Like if we would just regress, men would feel better. Now, I'm not debating that men feel bad, that young men especially. I mean, I've pointed this out in other videos. Look at how many men are falling into the alt-right pipeline. They're lonely. It provides a community. It makes them feel supported and a part of something where they feel lonely and alienated in society today. It's a real problem. But we're not going to come up with a real solution if the way it's worded is about the more women advance, the more men regress. Because to me, those two things are not related. If my coworker works really hard, harder than me, and gets a promotion, that I didn't regress. I didn't not get a promotion because they worked hard and got a promotion. If I worked hard, I would also get a promotion. So the two things are not related. Someone else achieving doesn't make you regress. That's not how balance in society works. It's not how balance in the universe works. And yet, I hear things such as women want high-value men with good-paying jobs, but they keep becoming more educated and taking all of those jobs so that the men can't have those jobs. And then there aren't any men that the women want because they took the jobs that they want the men to have.
Young male support for populist right-wing parties is on the rise. Violent unrest is a rising threat with a growing pool of young men with little stake in society or the future. And relationship formation itself is being affected as growing numbers of economically independent female graduates discover they have less need than ever to pair up with a man for financial support.
Because marriage is now a choice, you don't just have to find and rely on a man to marry in order to make it in society, in order to have money, in order to have a credit card, in order to buy things. You can support yourself as an independent human being. Men are finding that a lot of young men feel like they have no purpose. And I think that's where the discussion needs to start. Not about women doing it. Women aren't doing it. Men feel like their purpose in society is to get a woman and marry her and to win her like a prize. And that's what they're basing their self-worth off of, which is just detrimental to both men and women. Men, like women, are their own unique, special, powerful, intelligent individuals who need to learn how to base their self-worth off of themselves, not what a prize of a woman they can get.
The economic rise of women has achieved what Gloria Steinem set out to achieve, which is to make marriage a choice rather than a necessity. But one consequence of that is to then put a big question mark next to the role of men. Right? So I think underpinning a lot of these issues that we see kind of playing out for boys and men is really just, there's just a gap.
Yeah.
There's a space with a question mark in it now, which used to be filled with a whole script of ways, ways to be a man, ways to be a dad, ways to be a head of household, etc.
Marriage no longer being a necessity for women, putting a big question mark next to the role of men, is very sad. Because for the men out there that are watching this video, that are listening to this, if you're watching me, you probably already know this, but you are worth more than just being a breadwinner like you had to be in the olden days. Your worth comes from who you are as a person, just like mine does. And if you've ever heard someone say the phrase patriarchy hurts men too, this is a really, really good example of that. Because while we reduced women's value in society down to being a prize to be won and married, we reduced, or I keep saying we because it's society, but it's patriarchy, reduced men's value down to what kind of prize they could get.
Men need marriage more than women need it. The things that men get from marriage, the sort of stereotypical things, are still really important for the man. But the things stereotypically a woman was getting from the marriage, she now doesn't actually need that stuff from a man. She can kind of get that herself because society's shifted where it's not a case that the woman stays at home and raises the kids all the time. Now the woman's got her own money, her own independence. She can leave you.
I think that's true. For a man, a wife may be the only confidant. That's not true for women.
Now, I'm not saying it was equally difficult for both men and women to be a part of this arrangement. Men benefited from this so much. They benefited. They had, like he said, a confidant. Say I'm the wife. Why is that my responsibility? What? I built a network of friends who support me that I can confide in. I went to therapy. I did these things for myself so that I didn't have to emotionally be so dependent on someone else. Why can't you do the same thing? Why is that my responsibility? Historically, from marriages, men gained social status, children, someone to take care of the children, someone to do all the housework, someone to literally take care of them like their mothers did when they were growing up. And a lot of men would like to keep it that way, which is where you get Nick Fuentes and all these other red pill podcast dudes coming out of the woodwork because they like that they have someone, a prize. They have someone they can keep as a pet. They love the idea of just being taken care of and having the higher end of the power dynamic. And then they convince lonely young men that the reason they're not advancing in society is because women are advancing in society, and that's taking away all of the advancement opportunities from them. And if only women would just stay in their place, it would be so much easier for you to be back on top because you wouldn't have to put in any of the work. And now you have all these statistics about how slightly more, percentage-wise, women are getting higher educations, going after high-paying jobs, in the UK making more money than men, and they come at us with these, well, what about the pay gap? You complain about the pay gap, but women are making more than men now. Do you want to know what the difference is? Before, with the pay gap, a man and a woman would have the same job, exact same job, but the woman would make less than the man for that role. Now, the difference is women are getting jobs that pay more. So if you compare an IT specialist to someone who, is a waiter at a restaurant, and the IT specialist is a woman, and the waiter at the restaurant is a man, she's going to make more. Not because of gender inequality, but because she got the higher paying job. But if you have a man and a woman, both IT specialists, both with the exact same title, and the man makes more, that is the gender pay gap. That is unfair. Again, it's a serious topic. It needs to be discussed. Clearly, it is affecting our society. It's affecting young men in our society. But the way it's being framed is pretty consistently, if women go up, men go down. That's not how it works. Women's advancement in society is not to blame for men's regression. They're deciding not to go after these jobs. They're losing hope. They're deciding not to get the higher education. That's not, because women are advancing and we don't need to regress in order to make you feel better. I need you to understand that both things can exist at the same time. I feel for the men, the young men in this country, and I can also be really irritated that it seems to be my fault and my responsibility somehow at the same time, because it's not. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out some of my content that isn't news related, you can check out my personal YouTube channel at Bad Gamer Wyatt. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.